Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Have you ever learned to love something by accident? Well, before I get into that topic, I will say I just got back from the gym. It is snowing. We went to the gym early because that way we could go. We could go to the grocery store before we get snowed in forever. But of course, I have to shovel the driveway out later, so I get to two workouts for the price of one. How about that? This has nothing to do with the video. Although we did pick up some great kefir, this drinkable yogurt type stuff, which is awesome. I'm sure Jason will tell me it's bad for me or has too much sugar or something, but this has nothing to do with my dietary habits either. But I did learn to love that by accident. It was something that my girlfriend brought home, and I tried it, and I was like, wow, this is really good. But I want to talk more about genres in role-playing games. If you go back and look at my video catalog, which everybody should do because it's fascinating, I talk about, the quest for the ideal gaming group. I talk about, what, I want to compromise on, or, what do I not want to compromise on, making some kind of priorities. And one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is that I have learned to love some genres based upon playing them and having gotten suckered into them, for lack of a better word, by playing with people that I just connected with, but people that I like. And to me that I'm more willing to compromise on or try different genres that maybe didn't excite me at first, if I'm going to be playing them with people that I just connect with, and with people I like. And one of the discussions that I've had with a few people is, do you stick around in a group just because you like the people there? And I think it depends on what your other priorities are. If the style of play just is not doing it for you and you're just friends, I'm not sure what that answer is. For me, I decided the answer was no, I can't stick around those groups. I'm still friends with the people, I'll still play with them occasionally, but I decided not to be a permanent member of a group like that because I just left feeling unsatisfied. However, on the flip side of that, when you find some people that you do actually click with, where when you sit down and play, you realize that you're looking for the same thing or close to the same thing. When you talk to people and you realize you're thinking the same about the campaign, that you have the same kind of ideas that come up, or same suspicions, or maybe things are really like this, or maybe things should go that way if you're kind of co-creating it, and you realize that oftentimes, not all the time, that you're coming to the same conclusions. Those are the sort of people that I want to keep playing with, and so I've been kind of made to try, or not made to try. That's the wrong way of putting it, but I've tried some genres because the people that I was talking to were interested in them, and I've learned to love them in spite of myself. One of the ones, All for One, Regime Diabolique. I didn't actually play with the fellows before, except for Francois. But Three Musketeers was not something that I read when I was a kid. It was not something that I found incredibly interesting. Yeah, I liked swashbucklery. I would watch the films that had that sort of thing in it. But that time period just never grabbed me. I've talked about before on my channel that I just was never a history person. Just never really grabbed me. But playing in this setting with these people, it's come alive, and I've learned to love that genre and love that time period in spite of myself, because we're having such an immersive time role-playing in that environment. Kind of dovetailing off of that, I've been, in a lot of my videos about Lamentations of the Flame Princess, the early ones, I talk about the fact that I, wasn't all that into the default setting that it's made for, which is kind of like 30 Years War. Same basic time period as this. More 30 Years War Germany, but it's kind of all over Europe in that time period. Give or take 100 years or so. But as I started playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess in Prussia, started running it, I talked to my group, and we were talking about a few different ways we could approach things. We could play a strict fantasy game, or maybe we could play this world with a twist. I floated the idea of maybe doing something like Seventh Sea, where the geography was the same. We understood that France was France, but maybe had a different name. That's really kind of making up alternate histories. And the guys in the two groups I was talking to said, hey, how about we just try this world, the actual, kind of like All for One, where it is, the history is pretty much the same, but we're just putting a little bit of a twist on it, putting in the weird. And I've done that. And once again, it's so much fun playing with Lee and James or Josh James and Jason, that I learned to love that era again in spite of myself, in spite of it not being the most facile with the history of that period. Fortunately, I can look to those guys who know much more than I do to kind of set me straight. But having a lot of fun with that, and so now I'm looking at some other genres that probably aren't my first choice, But I'm finding that, like, I'm finding myself more interested in playing them with people that I already connect with, or people that have the same kind of bent that I do. And so, and sure, I'm going to make a video soon about some games I want to try to play this coming year, do my kind of New Year's resolution sort of video, because I'm definitely a sucker for a premise, and I love a specific genre. If something grabs me, I really gravitate towards that. However, it's been my experience, at least in the past year or so, that playing with the right group of people trumps just about everything else. So sometimes I end up learning things or learning to love things in spite of myself. What about you? Have you had that kind of experience? I'd like to hear about it.